our nationalists fought for and obtained the Westminster Model Parliamentary System as the basis for our political form of democracy. As you know, in the parliamentary form, some of these obvious contradictions that Madhavan has just pointed out exist there too, but less so, for two reasons. One is that the constituencies there are relatively tiny. And when the parliamentary system came into existence, it was perfectly possible for an MP to meet every single voter. Even today, the average MP represents about 1 lakh persons, which is not a whole lot. I mean, you can meet the majority of them without too much of difficulty. The average Indian MP represents 20 lakh persons, a couple of million people, and therefore the scale of representativity is obviously very different. The second interesting reason for a change, of course, between their way of doing things and ours is the Burkean notion, which the British have largely internalized. And once you elect an MP, he doesn't belong just to you, but to the nation. That an MP can go to Parliament and then use his or her intelligence, judgment, reading, knowledge, etc., to come up with a particular point of view on an issue which may have either be of no consequence to the voters of his constituency or may even depart in significant ways from what they would have wished, but that is his prerogative. And that Burkean notion is very, very present, but as you know, is totally absent in the Indian context. A third major difference is the anti-defection law in our country, which was brought about for very good reasons. The good reason being that a point had been reached when Ayaram, Gayaram politics had meant that people were literally crossing the floor from one party to another in quest of the loaves and fishes of office with such appalling frequency in a number of states that it simply wasn't realistic for that to be a valid form of democracy, and the anti-defection law was passed with the best of intentions. But it has meant that we now have a practice that does not exist in this Westminster model as practiced in Britain, which is that literally every bill has a whip attached to it. That is, that every single bill that is brought before Parliament, all the significant parties, obviously in the case of Asad Owaisi, who's just walked in, he's a one-man party, so he can give himself a whip as he sees fit. But for the rest of us, we have no choice but to vote as the party wants us to, because under the anti-defection law, this question of this Burkean notion that I described to you of voting our own conscience is academic, because if we vote against the party's wishes, we can be expelled not only from the party but from Parliament itself.